Well, hello there. Today is a very special day. We get to do stuff with Main DPS Columbina. I want to know how good she is. I want to specify by Main DPS, I just mean, like on-fielding Columbina, generally speaking. For most of this video, we're going to be using, Night Skies and Veiling, on-field Main DPS Columbina, utilizing the fact that she can consume Verdant Dew when you have the Lunar-Bloom reaction, so, Dendro happening, the little moon symbols that appear on screen, and you do a charge attack, and then she can do Lunar-Bloom damage, this Moon Dew Cleanse 2.12% times 3. And those, by the way, don't consume stamina when you do them as well. They also don't apply any Dendro, even though it's, Dendro-typed damage, Lunar-Bloom damage. It doesn't apply any of the element, and that's actually important. And it also doesn't apply any Hydro, which is also kind of important. Now, I did get her signature weapon. I will show, though, teams working with, just prototype Amber. It's also worth mentioning that if you're main DPSing Columbina, her burst is less important, so you can kind of do, like, burst every other rotation, use something like Dawning Frost, Widzith. There's also weapons like this thing, which is on the current weapon banner, is theoretically usable, too. Anyways, there's a smattering of different catalyst options available. Personally, I think you should just use prototype Amber, but if you're doing something interesting like trying to min-max Columbina's off-field damage, like I showed in my creator server video with Raiden, which I can't really mess around with right now, by the way, because I don't have the new artifacts to properly take advantage of it, but you can use this weapon theoretically on Columbina to min-max her off-field damage, and this could be really, really good. Does Nicole have anything to say for me?
And that is why I must expand my territory.
Conqueror Nicole. Okay. She can conquer. Anyways, oh, there's something we gotta show quick. Also, ignore the Steam for now. We'll talk about it. We're gonna reduce SFX volume, and I'm gonna crank up the dialogue. Yeah, she sings when you're doing her normal and charge attacks. It's a really nice touch. You might have heard, you might not have heard about that. It's a very subtle thing that's pretty... Oh my god. I usually have it a little bit lower, right? So, anyways, I just wanted to point that out because it's a fun little detail. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I understand. The game wants me to show off my favorite team with main DPS Columbina. Now, I don't think this is the strongest one, but I guess we should start with talking about this one. Why not? Anyways, do that. By the way, for executing like Columbina's charge attacks, you can just hold her charge attack, and she will just continue using Verdant Dew, similar to how Nefer can. But you can also do dash cancels to get them out a little bit quicker. Let's just go show this team for a second, because I'm itching to show it to you. It's too good. My Lauma is on 4-piece Gilded Dreams. My Durin I put on a mostly full EM build on Zyphos Moonlight. He has some EM stats though. And Emilie is on Deepwood Memories with her SIG weapon. She's C0. Columbina will be on her SIG, of course, and has a pretty good build. I could go into the Abyss to go and showcase this team, but I actually think there's a much better tool now. If you haven't heard of it, you can actually use Miliastra Wonderland to do testing for your teams. But this is a really useful tool for being able to like show the difference of different things happening, and you can even do like reaction tracking. But anyways, one thing I want you to pay attention, because Columbina is doing Hydra damage, not just Lunar-Bloom damage, right? And well, this is a burning team, so the enemy's gonna have Pyro on them. We can get Vaporizes, and we already have Elemental Mastery being built and whatever, so what do you think we're gonna get for I'm going to start with full energy because I can't be arsed to do the slow setups of Stygian. Probably should start with Emilie here. Do this. Alright. Tap. Okay. Do a full D on Lauma. Bram. Durin EE. And Bram. And do this. Alright. And with this team, you definitely want to weave a normal attack in between the charge attacks. Alright. And you can see our damage is slowly ramping up. We have, of course, a slow start, as most teams generally speaking do. Probably didn't need to do an extra charge attack there. Alright, there we go. Bam. Alright. Yeah, we'll go for about 90 seconds. That. Get a Vaporize? Oh, we didn't get a Vaporize. If you play well, you can definitely intentionally get a Vaporize. You can see I got 115,000 there. Now, I do have some constellations on Durin that are, affecting like my Vaporize damage, but I don't think Durin constellations are crazily affecting the whole team DPS. But, I do suspect this won't be quite as compelling for a lot of people. Now, I think I played this quite poorly, by the way, because I only got, let's see, 94,000 DPS. But the important thing I want you to see here is, you know, wow, look at all them vaporizes. I don't know why she has a burning trigger. The balance of Columbina's Hydro. Every 2 seconds, her skill applies Hydro, and they have her burst applying Hydro, and then we're weaving a couple of extra normal attacks in, and this is enough to get pretty consistent vaporizes and Virgin Core generation. And I don't think this is necessarily the ideal configuration of builds, to be clear. I was messing around with different builds on Durin and different combinations of artifact sets on Lauma and Emilie, and depending on exactly what you do in your stats on each of them, the team can perform a little bit differently. I'm pretty sure the damage that I got there in my first attempt is probably what you can expect to get with a non-C2 Durin and an Emilie without her signature weapon. But I don't know, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, maybe C2 Durin is doing more than I expect. It is a very strong constellation, but this is not a team where like all the damage sources take advantage of it, right? So, I'm not sure. Alright, do that, vaporize, yep, nice 200k. Yeah, basically you can see the longer I play, the more I can tick up the damage. And yeah, anyways, it's I don't know, I think it's hard to have the right balance of Hydra application that doesn't, you know, shut down Emilie's skill damage. And, you know, Columbina is getting 62% of the damage contribution here. But let's show Prototype Amber working. And I think a lot of people would want to use Prototype Amber anyways because, you know, you have no healer, shielder, whatever, unless you have Lauma C1. So Proto Amber is kind of nice. Anyways, I don't know. I like, when I tried this the first time, I was very surprised that, like, it just kind of worked as well as it did without having to muck with everything. Like, the only thing I'm doing is doing an extra normal attack. And you can see, even with Prototype Amber, I'm pushing 100k DPS, right? And we might get, yeah, we're getting over 100k for a second there. Like, I don't know. This is super fun to me. And, yeah, oops, that's not I'm spending too long on Columbina there. I was too busy yapping. It's very easy to do that by accident. You just kind of keep on generating dues, and then you just keep on doing charge attacks and listening to her sing. That is not the optimal thing to do, and I lost a bunch of damage for that. But, I don't know. Anyways, I am going to try to clear Stygian with this team, for sure. The fun of main DPS Columbina is that she can be a Lunar-Bloom DPS that can do whatever Dendro archetype at the end of the day, is what I have found. So, Durin Emilie team is my favorite Columbina main DPS team. I do think this team is strong enough that the vast majority of players that would try it, if you have the same characters, would be very satisfied with it. But of course, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, which you may or may not be aware of, which is, you know, Lauma is kind of needed for Columbina herself to feel like she's doing really compelling damage numbers. Lauma's buff basically from her burst. It's a humongous buff to both her skill, Lunar-Bloom damage, and her charge attacks to such a degree that, you know, I would say that Columbina main DPS wants Lauma more even than like Nefer wants Lauma, in my opinion. Whether that matters at all will depend on your standard for what you feel like you need for a good team. Columbina has the advantage that, you know, unlike Nefer, she doesn't turn off other reactions, so even if you don't have Lauma for Columbina, you still have the other reactions going on, right? You still have your Hyper Blooms or whatever else. Just kind of is what it is. So we're going to use, you know, Nahida and Nefa Ino. Probably have already heard that the Columbina and Nefa combo is quite strong. So we basically have the Columbina and Nefa combo, and by the way, my Nefa is on Serenade build, not on new artifacts. Again, don't have them yet, so I can't, you know, necessarily stress test the maximum performance here. I do have an Ino C6 though, and I suppose that will keep Prototype Amber on her for this. Nobody is on any limited 5-star weapon either. Okay, we'll do this, let's do this, and then let's do her burst. Do this. Alright, BAP. Okay, and we'll do this, and I know can funnel particles to Columbina, which is nice. So yeah, we have quite low energy needs, but yeah, you can see we're getting like a third of the personal damage from Columbina's Lunar-Bloom talent. And anyways, Nahida C2 is uplifting this, is ultimately what it is. She's also making Bloom's Crit, which I forgot about, and that I can turn off. But anyways, like, I think with the new artifact set on Nefa in particular, this probably can get towards 80k DPS. And if we put her signature weapon on, I didn't feel like trying to massively reconfigure things, but yeah, you can immediately see we're doing quite a bit more with signature weapon. And, you know, now we're starting to get into territory where this is, like, not going to clear necessarily, like, new difficult Stygian bosses, but is definitely able to clear content comfortably. Like, this can clear Abyss, I think, without a problem, right? In particular, the new Abyss isn't that challenging. And that's just something to be aware of, right? You know, ultimately, if you want the main DPS Columbina, depending on what you have available, you got to pick content that's most suitable to your teams and what you have available for your investment. I do also have a pretty good build on my Columbina at the same time as well. So, a lot of people, depending on what your account investment is like, you know, might not find main DPS Columbina usable for endgame at all. Alright, goodbye Nahida, I'm so sorry for what we're gonna do to you.
Follow me.
It's also worth mentioning that, like, Lauma is so imbalanced that... what am I doing? Lauma C2 is, like, a significantly better constellation for Columbina than, like, Columbina's own constellations are for Columbina. So... oh boy. That was a charge attack that was pointless. I should probably track my charge attacks better, but whatever. We doing casual brain rot gameplay. The only main DPS Columbina team I practice is the Durin team because it's the fun one. Anyways, anything that should show you how the Durin team is actually. It's surprising how the Durin team can compete with like Anefa, in my opinion, considering how good the Anefa thing is at a core, but. Yep, you can see, right, we're getting 110k, whatever. And again, that was a C2 Nahida. Yeah, anyways. I will say that, like, main DPS Columbina, even with Lauma, isn't so strong that I think most players will be able to clear new Stygian bosses. Like, I am going to try to do so without her SIG weapon. If you are in a situation where main DPS Columbina isn't going to be clearing a Stygian boss, even if you have Lauma, because, you know, you don't have a 5-star weapon for her, or you don't have a Nefa, you don't have the options, then, you know, does it actually matter if you don't have Lauma necessarily? I don't know if it does, right? And you can kind of then pick and choose how you invest into things. Ultimately, I do think Columbina is functional for the vast majority of the player base to be main DPS, right? Like, don't let any Lauma comparison scare you away that much for just trying to have fun with the character. While we're on the topic, I guess if you find yourself that you want to spend money because you love Columbina, I would suggest you potentially use today's sponsor, LDShop. LDShop is just a top-up service where you can save up to 30% on your top-ups. Every new version, so you can see for version 6.3, Luna 4, they have a 30% off top-up for 64.80 here. You can also get Welcome Moons, so I usually buy all my Welcome Moons through them. They also usually give out a bunch of other coupons on a regular basis that you can use. They also have a nice bonus that, oh, I haven't claimed mine yet. They also have a cool bonus where if you spend $80 in a month, you can get a free like monthly login for whatever gacha game of your choice here. And you know what, I may as well show that claim. And you can see now we have this $0 Blessing of the Welcome Moon. Double check your UID, but you should probably just copy it from the in-game profile function. You can hit pay $0 now because it's my free one. And I should just, oh, okay, I just moved my hand and it already was here, right? Anyways, feel free to check out LDShop. My link is in the description. Back into main DPS Columbina. What else should we show? I think I should obviously show Nilou. I have C2 Nahida and C2 Nilou because of questionable decisions in my past and my present. Tread lightly with the scary weapon banner, but I did get this in a single pull. So, sometimes the game is just like, it wants me to advertise. You can enjoy Columbina perfectly fine without spending money. Anyways, and the goal here is just to show, you know, full-on, unrelatable, high investment, but I also can show actually how you can use the damage dummy to tweak things. And then there's another team I want to show that is Bloom, but not Nilou Bloom for main DPS Columbina that I think is kind of cool, which has to deal with the nuance of how Lauma's burst works. But anyways, this is going to be really unrelatable, and it's fine. I will try to showcase turning off the one functions in a second too, because I think it's interesting to show that. But yeah, anyways. We're going to have Nilou Bloom damage going here, but the weird thing with this is that, let's see how long it takes. We still are getting it now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now we ran out of the buff from Lauma, and we did not do like a full 6 charge attacks yet, right? But basically what happens is we just end up with we have all the Bloom core generation happening, right? And in AoE, this would happen. We would end up using it up even faster. But we end up using all of our buff for, or not all of our buff, but a lot of the buff that could apply to Columbina's Lunar-Bloom damage, or talent damage, right, ends up buffing the Bloom cores instead. And it's like, you're still getting buffing value, but you're getting less buffing value by buffing the Bloom cores than you are from buffing Columbina's Lunar talent damage, right? So the fact that we, like, you know, do 4... We still have 5 charge attacks. Yeah, we were doing 5 charge attacks that were getting fully buffed. It doesn't mean it's bad, right? Like, we're getting 150k DPS. But let me go tweak some things here. So this is a really cool feature of this, where this is basically just me turning off the crit damage that C2 Nahida provides. And we can turn off C2 Nilou by adding elemental resistances here. Putting to 50, which is a little bit more than what C2 Nilou provides, but it's fine. Hold E. You do want to hold E, generally speaking, with Lauma. Well, the times you don't want to is if you're not bursting a rail rotation, so if you're using like Widzith or whatever. Well, you still probably want to hold E, I think, because you'll generate verdant juice of the rotation, but it might depend on the team a little bit, right? There may be situational times where it could make sense. And yeah, now you can see, right, we're more around the 100k DPS threshold, which is about what I would have expected. And this is part of why, by the way, I think the Durin team is so compelling. Like, I think for most people it'd be a little bit behind, obviously, doing something like this. Now we're getting up to 110k. But the burning team, the Burgeon team is so fun, and it covers so many different elements for, like, and when so often the end game content is dictated by whether or not you have certain elements for, like, dealing with enemy mechanics. I don't know. I really like Burgeon teams, but I'm biased. I don't know. Anyways, ignore me. But yeah, you can see, obviously, this is pretty good. But her signature weapon is still a pretty significant upgrade here, right? And this is what I was talking about, where you remove her signature weapon and you get in the territory of, like, probably not going to be able to clear Stygian bosses for a lot of people, but it depends on the individual boss and your ability to optimize things and blah, 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 blah. Alright, but we got one more team to show before we go into Abyss. And we're changing one thing here. Only one thing. Removing Nilou for Ino. You know how I mentioned before how Lauma's, like, burst buff, right, was being eaten by the Bloom cores, and it's better to use those in Columbina? Well, if we're doing normal Bloom without Nilou causing them to instantly explode, we're generating the Bloom cores, but they're taking long enough to explode that we can get, you know, like a full 6, maybe 7 charge attacks out on Columbina, if it makes sense, that all are getting Lauma's buff. We do not run out of Lauma's buff for Columbina anymore. So that actually makes, like, just normal Bloom, not Nilou Bloom, pretty competitive. Alright, Q, E. It is unfortunate, by the way. I kind of wish they had run Ino on Columbina's better. They said batter? Banner. Make sure we stick to 6. But yeah, in my experience, when I've been testing this before, it's normally gonna, when played well, it should hit around 100k. And it's surprisingly competitive, right? With doing just like Nilou Bloom, right? You can see now we're getting over 100k, yep. And, oop, that was too many charge attacks, my bad. So, yeah, anyways, like, it's compelling. And I think this nuance is actually really fun. I don't know, I think this is a good nuance, right? It means there's surprisingly good options for making things work. And Ino has the significant advantage of being able to, as long as you are able to do Q into E with her, you can funnel a bunch of particles to Columbina to reduce her energy needs a lot. Especially on Fav like I have, so her energy needs are quite trivial to me. Like, being that I have her signature weapon right now, I'm pretty sure with a funnel from Ino, I basically need no ER. With a different weapon, like with a Widzith, whatever, I think you could burst her rotation, but anyways, you can see we're getting up to 110k when I'm doing things well on longer sustained situation. Like, yeah, it is a C6 Ino, whatever, but it's very compelling. But, you know, clearly Ino's a bad character. That is pretty much all I have, at least as far as, you know, my current ideas for doing main DPS Columbina. Unless we were going to get into stuff like how Raiden can be a weird buffer for Columbina by essentially annihilating her energy needs. But I did show that in my early access video, you can check that out. I will mess around with that more in the future. There is weird fun like quick swappy things that I have messed with, but again, I want like new artifacts to be able to truly test it. But basically where I use Raiden on a hybrid build with some EM and crit, do a burst on Raiden, and then do like 3 charge attacks on Columbina, so like quick swappy stuff, that I have found is quite fun and interesting. But with my current build options, I have mostly found it just like kind of worse than doing the other main DPS Columbina things, but if you wanted to do that kind of quick swappy gameplay stuff, you can definitely do it. Because a lot of her damage is off-field in that context. You don't do like full field time, so it's weird. I don't know. For now, I definitely think this Burning Emilie team is my favorite. It is worth mentioning, though, that as far as Durin goes, you do not have to have Emilie, because I'm sure some people are going to be wondering that. When it comes to having Burning going on and making this work, Fischl can work in place of Emilie, where then you now start getting the Hexerite bonus. You can get additional EM, and you get the Red Shred, right? I've also tried doing things like putting in a Cryo unit. And the idea with cryo units is that, again, that's just a source of being able to reduce the pyro on the enemy in order to help get through and get more burgeons generated. I found that work. There's like different amounts of combos that you have to do with different teammates, but overall, they all kind of do work as long as you're able to play around them. I think the most fun build around by far, personally, for main DPS Columbina is like doing Lauma Durin core and then messing around with what you find as your favorite last slot. You can also do double Hydro, by the way. I tried Ino instead, again, and that worked too. With Ino, you just spam charge attacks, by the way. And depending, I think, on the exact team configuration, the build that makes sense to do on different characters can change. I think we'll go finish off the video doing an Abyss run with this team. If you try any variant of whatever things I suggest in the video, let me know in the comments. I'm down to see what your experience is and what your favorite main DPS Columbina team is. I have been very happy with how much variety she has, and I don't know, I really like that she is a Lunar-Bloom DPS that doesn't turn off the reaction, right? Like Nefer's design is interesting in that, you know, her reward for turning off the reaction is just her massive damage and whatever, and that's fine and on a balance level, right? She's the inverse of that, where she doesn't do as massive damage, but she can still do compelling damage with Lauma. But then you also can just design the team around normal things that are fun with Dendro and whatever. So I don't know. I really, really like main DPS Columbina, and I'm glad I like purposely leveled a bunch of artifacts for her. I just remembered I have this onset circlet, which is a little bit worse than my off piece, but I can change my flower. Yeah, this seems okay. Let's try that. I have less HP, but monkey brain happy. Yeah, these enemies put a debuff on you that makes you want healing. More reason to potentially consider Prototype Amber. You know, we'll do our clear with Prototype Amber too, why not? And we'll use Dia over Vape on the second half. Oh boy, it's so silly, yeah. This team does far more damage than is needed for Abyss. Right, we're waiting for the enemy to do its thing for stall longer than we are actually needing to do damage to it. It's a normal thing for any strong team versus this enemy, to be clear. Alright, do that. Alright, do we still have Emilie? I don't know if we had Emilie going before. Okay. Do this. Yep. And it's dead, yep. Crit, wee. Actually, I think that overcaps us with Columbina. I didn't mention, by the way, she's an outer pain in the arse to build. I probably should have mentioned that. I just realized. With Lauma, to scale the value of Lauma's buff for her damage, you mostly just want crit, because that's how you scale the value. You don't scale it by EM or HP, that just scales the base scaling value, but her base scaling is not that high. And actually, that's one of the benefits of this team, in my opinion, is the fact that her HP and EM stats matter more, because she's actually doing meaningful vaporized damage. So, you know, those substats are relevant, but in any of the other teams with Lauma, you basically just want as much crit damage as possible, and it's part of the reason her signature weapon is over, like, representative of, like, a major increase for her. And yeah, anyways, she's a pain to build because she starts with like 40% free crit rate and then gets 30 crit rate from the set for free, and then she gets 10% crit rate from Lauma. She's a pain in the arse to build. Anyways, can I get energy? A little bit slow start there. I didn't have energy, that's fine. Tap. Okay. Okay, should we time our burst? Can we use kill this? No, we can't. Okay, let's do that. And its shield is already gone. Okay, well, I don't think we had much to worry about, did we? Alright, let's do this. Let's just do this. Okay, new enemy spawn. Bam. Do that. Bam. And, yep. it's just kind of, we kept on getting interrupted. I guess that's a factor, by the way, with her that some people might find annoying. You do this. Okay. Alright, bam. Bam. And we'll Durin. Why are you all the way on the edge of the abyss, bro? Alright. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. You definitely do get interrupted a lot. Okay. And you are already dead. Alright. Oh, not quite. I lied. Now you are dead, and we burst on Emilie. We burst on you. And, ramp. And yeah, like, I do think, despite the fact that I have powered down Durin, pseudo-powered him down, right, my Durin Z2 is making a difference. I am very confident it was not making a difference to the degree that, like, oh my gosh, that would have been difficult, right? It could very well be making a difference that is relevant for Stygian Onslaught, but I just don't think that matters that much, personally, but anyways. Go Dia, Bram. So yeah, there should be. I don't know, I really like Columbina as a main DPS. She's definitely good if you have Lauma. If you don't have Lauma, I think she's just fine. And then you can have fun with her, right? I do really want to emphasize how, like, rare it is, though, to find such ease of being able to do something like burning with Emilie. Like, it's the perfect balance of Pyro application and Dendro application and Hydra application to be able to get satisfying vaporized numbers on Columbina and get Virgin damage and get Lunar-Bloom talent damage. Like, this team is so cool. I really, really like this team. But anyways, and again, you can play with a flex slot. But anyways, there's definite teething problems. Obviously, Lauma reliance is unfortunate. I think it's just a side effect of how this lady thing, creature, deer was balanced. I don't know. Anyways, her SIG weapon is a pretty compelling upgrade for her, but obviously, you know, it's not really necessary for an Abyss context, I would say, generally speaking. Lauma is far more desirable over her SIG, but her SIG can be very nice. Getting interrupted during her charge attacks is very easy, I would say. So that could be a problem for some people. It's not really that big of an issue for me. And, you know, you still have your other sources of damage going when you get interrupted too. So anyways, blah 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 blah. I like this creature. What a wonderful moon goddess she is. Hey, I breached 130k. Let's go. That's with a fully powered C2 Durin. Emilie still does way more damage than him though, so...